Yo, so here I am. I'm back on the beach. That's pretty dead here. Then I've done my shop yesterday. I've got bits and pieces. It's in the bag that's holding my selfie stick up with this. So what I've got here is some Chinese meat politics for my Chinese fellas. So what I want to do is, it's breakfast time. It's like at 10 a.m. here or so. So let's have a toast. I've got an Aldi grog. Let's have a toast and that. So what's happening in China, for all my Chinese fellas and Pingy and everyone, even Chinese government, that all my Chinese fellas is trying to get 10 million ton of meat, right? And now Chinese is blocking my meat everywhere because I have like 1 billion dogs now a year, but need 1 point something billion dogs. That now this meat cannot travel back to China now. That they can't go alive because he couldn't slaughter all of them. And then they can't go frozen because the boats, they couldn't make enough electricity for the big, to have too many refrigerated containers. Then that's only like dry meat. Now this is too much. So now all the other Chinese that doesn't have meat, like the cheap Chinese, veggie Chinese, all these Chinese, saying he couldn't have sold anything in China. That doesn't sell any food anywhere to anyone. That's all them buying their own food, the Chinese. Right? Then some Chinese said to me now that they were swapping dog meat for chicken meat. Then the chicken is too expensive now. So I'm ending up with a big problem here, that in China they couldn't have sold any food anywhere. That now the meat is too expensive. So let's say this way, the Chinese, that these are hard to get meat. Dogs, they barks, they sniffs around, when they're in the cages, that's no good. They ends up crying, doesn't get exercise, that it's shit in the cage, then you have to clean the cage and that. And the Chinese government did print some money to tag the animals along, but that's not that much. However, doesn't let you print that much because doesn't have enough product in China. So I've put all this food on the market in China to lift the wage up, so now they're blocking it, say that there will be too much food in China. And now he's saying he's selling paprika instead of black bean sauce, and I've said that they've not sold nothing. So we're there with this. So the problem is they're trying to take the money back and go back to the 8 yen. And just sell everything outside. He's saying that if we sell outside China, that's got enough business there. So now I'm just sitting here thinking, if no Chinese sold any food in China, most Chinese is healthy looking. So what's happening is that the Chinese are all eating their own meat. So this is a big problem here, because he couldn't have sold any food this way. plus the Chinese are eating their dead. We allow it at the moment because of too many, and then Chinese are eating Indians. Now, this is a big problem here, because then I cannot sell any food anywhere this way. A Chinese said he eats a kilo of meat every day. They're like human, that they say they eat the whole fella between 6 people a day, or something, a week or something, or 2 days or something. That the whole one fella lasted a couple of days for 6 people. That the Chinese are eating a lot of meat. Then this Chinese said to me that he could not buy any other meat because he have to eat their meat. And then the Chinese with the meat that's in the shop, he's saying he couldn't have sold any meat anywhere. So now let's go back to the Chinese with the meat, with more exotic meat like snakes and dogs and all this. So what's happening is that, yeah, he did get some money from the government, but the tag the meat along in between civilizations, the 7,000 years, then this, he couldn't have had, they're only eating vegetables and that, and they're grinding human bones for the animals and that to eat, because he didn't have any food and he couldn't have had much animal, because then they kill you for him. And so they was hungry and that and everything, man, that this not easy survival with animals when there is no civilization. So this is a bit of a hard mission and that. So that has to give credit to the Chinese. But I've got some figures now. So Chinese now eating 600 million ton of meat a year. Basically, that this here, the 600 million ton of meat a year they eating Chinese. So this is a fair bit of meat. This is a fair bit of meat, man. That's a lot of meat, man. And I doesn't have any food market in China. And then Chinese are sold this meat to themselves and to some friends. And this apparently is illegal. I've had this checked out. So all the Chinese, this is illegal. They just can't go into the shop. So basically, that turns out now that inside China, I does have plenty of meat. However, still ending up with Chinese that's hungry and that. He says some Chinese eating shit and that because had no money to eat and that. So I want to stop this here, because I'll give vouchers and that to get food, and I'll give meat. So no Chinese is hungry, because I want to move this food that has to be eaten, because then I'll have to chuck it out. So if any hungry Chinese to call up and they give you food, man, doesn't want hungry Chinese, doesn't want anyone hungry, because I want to move this food. So that's this here. So what I'm trying to do is lower the bracket on the quantities of the meat that you need to be able to put it in the market, and get some other drills like packing deliveries and all these other drills that I could have with 600 million ton of meat a year in China. That they give more jobs if you can do it legally, because ends up too many meat, man. There's 6,000 kinds of animals, man. If it's all 10 million ton, 6,000 animals times 10 million ton, this could not have been eaten in China. So the government is trying to figure this out for me. He wants to do it as a legal market, but the Chinese say he doesn't have enough for them. But you get rabbits this time and you get snails and they get snakes. They have to change it around, because if all the Chinese got all the meat on the market, then there's too much meat. Now I have this other Chinese saying that he's had to have 10 million ton to go on the market in China. Then these now, that's what I'm trying to do, is see if I could enter all this product on the market and then lower the brackets so then it rotates. So then basically what I wanna do is that all the Chinese with the meat, that they have to sell it to other people, then he has to buy food in. Because that doesn't have any business if they just all Chinese eating their own food, man. That doesn't get any business out of it anywhere, man. Couldn't get any food business in China any other way, man. Chinese saying that has to sell out food, that there's the laws, has to sell it. However, that there is exemptions if nobody buying it and that. So then you couldn't have done anything in China now if it's not basically, if it's not something done. You won't be able to get any food business anywhere in China any other way, because all Chinese will just end up eating their own food. Now Chinese saying this meat is too expensive, rah rah rah. So because they're selling less meat and less meat, Chinese said. That's because there is one thing saying that I could have bought it, and then there is the other thing is that Chinese are scaling up their productions of all the animals for the meat market, then they getting more and more meat. So now we at the level where everybody is eating in China like a kilo of meat mostly a day. So then have to sell it out legally. I want to do is sell it legally, then get tax of it, and then that have to crash the price, flat the market with the meat, because then the meat is going more expensive. They say that chickens are now half yen and they're smaller, and that these Chinese said he couldn't have sold any, and then they doesn't want to carry a big one home, and that. So I doesn't know what to do now. However, that does have plenty of meat for the Chinese market, and the Chinese are saying if you get in Indians, then has to sell some. So what's happening with the Indians is that the Chinese give product in China, in India, then they're sending Indians down for meat, because if they do it all there, there's too many dead there. So he's bought it overseas with money there. Chinese doing it for product and that. So now it's trying to, what's happening now, the Chinese government is trying to lower down the amounts of Indians allowed in China as well. So that's coming in next. So need to agree on some sort of agreement where all the meat in China just gets sold in China, and then it's gonna lose all overseas market for meat, get growing meat for China overseas, like dogs, snakes and all this. That's only like a for overseas market now, because end up too much meat now. That's already pretty much like a too much meat in China now. because Chinese saying he got too much, the meat that's on the shops, that there is too much of it. Now, nobody buying it. So that's what I've got there. Then there is another thing that I've got with the cops saying that they're killing off all the good cops and that. So I've got update here for the cops and shit. That doesn't kill fuck all cops now. They only like the really filthy ones and that. So what they told me that most of the cops, if they kill you, they just go agree to the oven or whatever, and then he goes to another town and then he's got them waiting there till the end of the war and see what happens. So I've got the update for the cops and that's only door checks until 48. If you start before that you get the door check for 25 years before you can get money. If you want to buy something like a house or something like that, you'll have to buy it twice like me and that. So that's this news. And the third news is that I doesn't think any of this will happen with any cops, because these black fellas over here is saying that if you are not paid up, you won't be doing any job anywhere in Australia. Has to go another town on a dole check as a HQ or whatever if that doesn't kill you, or overseas. So any cop that's staying on must be paid up. You won't be able to do any cop work in your town or whatever on your land or that tribe's territory, even though it's my land, and that on that tribe's territory. So I just know what this shit is. People are saying stuff here, there, and there. So fuck all cops dead. Okay, all left to go to another town or whatever, and that shit. And then does say that they called up, so that does kill all these cops that called up overseas and shit. However, that doesn't kill that many cops. There are a lot of cops that's still alive, waiting in the other town at the end of the war. However, they don't let you back on the cop ranks anywhere unless you are paid up. If you have a death penalty and you are not paid up, they has to go and cannot be a cop in any town, not even for these cop shows here that are the actual cop shows, which I gave a rough description. So if you are not paid up, then never do any cop work anywhere. And that, like, that they taking cops for Russia, and that if you can learn Russian, and some niggas letting cops on in Nigeria and shit, if you wanna be coppers, then do cop work there. However, that will have to be done legally, man. That can't be done illegal. So the message for the cops is that if you're not paid up, the blacks won't let you be a cop anywhere with a legit job, even if it is legit. With this, what they gave me some clues to what this job is going to be. So the copper said he could not manage this way, and the other thing is that's gonna have to let some sabotage go on, because then what they're doing is that if they all doing it, then it's sending their cans to sabotage and shit. Then they ends up setting them up so they can kill this cop here and that cop here. So they ends up setting up with this shit. And then these other cans saying if he's just setting him up to get a cop drill, then he couldn't have killed him. Now they're sending up with this shit everywhere. So that they've cleared up a lot of cops now, and the rest are just bags and shit now. So what we gonna do with that? That's the next step with the cops. So the blacks and the government to let me know what they wanna do. So the cops left in now, that it's all just bags now. So for forgiveness and shit. Yeah, that ends up, if you let it go, that just ends up fucking same shit again. So that we've had these wars on, that they telling me that before, every time they just had to kill them all and that. So I'm not sure what happens now, man, with this shit, where they wanna take it and that. And now some of the shit in the food and that, because she smell and that. So they cook in whole cans, Indians and that. They didn't cut out the shit out of people, so they chuck the whole Indian in there, cook that up first, and chuck chura and that. That's what ends up, because everybody asking to give them some human food and that. So there is that going on as well now. So for Indians and the blackfellows and all this shit, the cups and shit, so if you're trying to grow anything here that comes out of China, that they never give you right seeds now, because you've been sabotaging the food here, and nobody wants to have anything made by any blacks here, or any cops, or any kind that's not paid up and that couldn't have had your product on the market, trying to shift it in, squeeze it in, so that for that you never get the right seeds anywhere now, man, if you want to grow anything here, because you're sabotaging the product here and jumping other product to get your product in here to get money for it, and you couldn't have got that much for that product and that. So that's gonna take you all out if you're trying to produce any product in Australia now. It's gonna take it all out, and all Chinese product. Everybody wants just Chinese product here, man. At this stage, anything to eat and that, and basically could have been chucking shit in there so they don't jump you for it and all this. So the message for the cops is that if you're not paid up, there's nothing, man, nothing. They only like the operants stay, but they have to be under 15. If you over 15, had some cop training, will have to go. If you stay in any position, you pay. So I think if it's all these cops, that I shouldn't have to pay for what these cops here has done and that. And then with the cops, then he said to me, the rest wanna fight and this shit here, sabotage and all this. So then they've cleared it up apparently, and now the rest of these ones that's left, they're just bags now and that. So I don't know what to do next. Military's got it. So I don't know what we're doing. So let's have a toast. So if we can't get this meat market going in China legal, then there is not gonna be any food business anywhere in China, man. Won't be able to sell any food anywhere. So that if it's electronics and clothes, then he couldn't have just been selling fridges, man, in China. There is just fridge business everywhere, but if you can't get the food business going, man. So let's get this meat on the market somehow. Let's have another toast. So for my Chinese fellas, well, I'll see you soon. I'm all good still. And take care. Talk soon.